Welcome. It is Wednesday, the 22nd of September. This is that active show where we ask questions and talk to people. And one of the people that we talk to is Scott Marshall. He's joining us today. Long time no see. Hope all is well.
All is well.
Good stuff. Before we get into our chat, I've got some business to take care of, and that is discussing Vision Zero Enforcement Team. The Vision Zero Enforcement Team is a team of dedicated officers that go and augment the good work done in divisions all over the city, and they go and target specific behaviors. Those behaviors are the big four. They look for speeders, aggressive drivers, distracted drivers, and impaired drivers, and they issue them tickets, and in the case of impaired drivers, arrest them. Why are they doing that? Well, they're trying to reduce serious injury and death on our roadways, and they're doing it by targeting those particular behaviors, which are known to be the most serious and lead to the most serious injuries and death. So where are they going to be today? 22 Division and 41 Division. If you don't want to meet one of our fine officers and get their autograph on a ticket, don't break the rules. It's as simple as that. So if you don't know where 22 and 41 are, you can go to this website. This is the short link that we've created to help you get to the Toronto Police website and find the divisional maps and boundaries so you know exactly where you are in relation to them. But again, the easiest thing is don't break the rules. Now, back to the important stuff. Scott, you just launched season 2 of your podcast. So is that 56 episodes you're going into now?
4. I've done 54. And so it's, I thought I'd just switch it up a little bit in the menu. So season 2 kind of makes it seem like there's more, right? Because there is more. There's lots of stuff.
And you have some special secret sauce coming. Like you hinted to that in episode 1 of season 2.
I did, and just a few things in the works that I'm going to try to work on. It's all about getting time to do things, and I may be launching a new website. So
very cool.
We'll see how all of that goes, and but road safety is always on our minds. Doesn't matter what platform we use, we all just have to keep that thought process.
Yeah, and so much to talk about. It's talking about platforms, though. You are now on TikTok, The Safe Driver on TikTok, and loving your content there. The fact that people who don't know you, because we've been a little less regular on this show and focused primarily on our TikTok. But for those who don't know you, you're a blogger, a podcaster. You're the former judge, or one of the former judges on Canada's Worst Driver. What else you got going on?
I train driving instructors in Ontario and Eastern Canada for Young Drivers of Canada, and that's my main gig. There's a whiteboard behind me to kind of illustrate that, and that keeps me really busy. And I've done driver training for over 33 years. I had hair. I had a mullet even. Maybe we can get that mullet picture up sometime.
You showed me your ID card once, and that was trippy.
Yes, I had the stash and so forth. But so yeah, it's been a long run, and it's not ending anytime soon. So it's a lot of stuff, and I know you do the radio with Jerry Hagar on each week. So I've done a lot of radio interviews, and they're always fun. They really are, and television with things like that. So I think the more that we get that word out in a different way, then people start listening. If it's always the same thing, then people kind of blur it off. But doing things like this and your TikTok and things like that is one way to kind of get people's attention and make them think. And that's really been my mandate is if I can make you think, then that's probably a good thing.
And I think you have the same approach that I have, which is that we're not just telling you. We're trying to win you over. We're having discussion. We're bringing you reasons to do it, as opposed to the fact that I told you to do it. It's important that you buy into what we're saying. Not that you need to. We want to present it in such a way that you accept it, buy into it, and it becomes your own way of thinking. Because our only goal is to keep people safe.
That's right. And there's a phrase I use when I'm training instructors is sell it, don't tell it. And the fact that most people don't always do what they're told, but they do what they believe in. And the reason why I think that this has bonded with me so much is that there's a blend here between education and enforcement. And it's not, I think if viewers and listeners get to realize the fact that it's a police officer giving you information, but you also have a road safety educator, a driving instructor someone that lets you know the ins and outs, that like, that doesn't necessarily apply with the legal side of it, but the moral responsibility side of it, and the fact that it's not just you in the vehicle, it's your family, people at home that can be affected by your decisions.
Totally. It's. I said it just now. We just finished a 1 hour live broadcast on TikTok, and one of the things I said was, our goal is to have you learn the ins and outs, learn the laws, so you can avoid tickets. Many people run into situations that they just didn't know, and unfortunately, that's not an excuse under the law for you breaking it. You ought to have known, and we are helping to bridge that gap to make sure that your questions are answered. And you can do that right here. This is a live broadcast. You are, if you're watching on any of the platforms, drop a comment, go into the live, and you can ask us questions. We'll answer you right here. And it's one of those unique opportunities where you can have access to both a police officer and, in this episode, a driving instructor, and someone who is as knowledgeable as you. Unless you're booking time, you're not getting access.
Yeah, and you know what? It's the old saying, "Ignorance of the law is no excuse for your actions." But again, it's I think a lot of it really is more than an infraction. And I know that there's many people out there who they don't like the authority figures and the different things like that. But it's not so much that there's an authority figure; it's the fact that someone else that knows something. When I first started at Young Drivers Canada, I was 24 years old. That was a really long time ago, and I was retraining licensed drivers. And so there were these people. I was a couple years into the job, so I was 26, I guess. And these people have been driving longer than I'd been alive. But the difference was is that I knew information that they didn't know. So you pick on the people with more experience to draw more information for yourself, and it's more than just an opinion. It's facts, it's research, and this is what I do for a living. So I do go and find out the information. I do search different multiple sources to find out the facts before I give it to instructors or drivers alike.
You mean you
Because
read stuff?
I do. Well, there's pictures too.
There's pictures. Okay,
And
good.
the pictures, they help. If they're in color, I'm on top of it. And so it just makes it a lot easier to understand when someone can explain it who's done the work for you. And that's what we do.
Well, there's lots of things to cover. It is the first day of fall, so
Yeah.
we got some fall safety tips for everyone. But there's other things going on. We fall. It just means that there's the next stage right behind it, and there's planning. We can talk about schools being back in for a number of weeks now. What's top of your list? What do you think? First day of fall. What do you start with?
First day of fall, I start thinking about the changing of the environment. And temperatures are going to drop. So I know today temperatures are going to drop down to about 15 degrees. 15 degrees now seems cool. If you got 15 degrees in March, it's warm. So it really kind of depends on your season. But pretty soon, and I'm going fishing this weekend with friends on a regular fall trip. And when we go further north, it's lovely to see the leaves change color. It's a wonderful look. But those leaves are going to end up being on the road. Now let's combine the leaves on the road with rain overnight, that type of thing. These leaves eventually start filling up the crevices, the potholes, and they hide things. So if you see a big pile of leaves, do your best to safely avoid it. Keeps you under control of your vehicle. If it is a big pothole, it can cause damage to your vehicle, momentary loss of control, and maybe even a surprise. And no one really likes those kind of surprises.
And those bundles or piles of scattered leaves combined with water, as we start seeing the temperatures dip even further, are a great place for ice to build, and
Yeah.
it just compounds the problem. An already slippery condition made worse by freezing water, and it's things that we've forgotten. We've been in this great blissful warm weather for not that long, but we've forgotten what winter driving is like and what fall driving is like. So we need to come back to the basics, and that is, slow down, plan your trips ahead, expect the unexpected, and leave yourself enough time. If you add stress to the situation, we always come back to this, but planning is the basis for everything that I talk about, because it's when you plan poorly, you end up putting yourself in a situation for failure.
You do, and when people talk about different, the skids, and they think about wintertime for skid control, but the fact is that anytime you put something between your tires and the asphalt, it creates a loss of friction, and loss of friction is going to create a loss of traction. So the leaves could even be dry on the road. And being first day of fall, a couple more weeks, you're looking at a week and a half. You're looking at October happening with the leaves on the road, whether they're dry or the case is. When you talk about leaving yourself time, it also means time to come to your stop, time to come to a red light, time to come to a stop sign, and time to come behind another vehicle. Um, Slowing down early, just in case you get a loss of friction. And coming up on my podcast this week, I'm going to talk a little bit about tires, so I don't want to give too much away. But
Leave us in suspense.
yes, but listen soon. Um, but it's fact is your tires can't be ignored,
For sure.
and that's one of the things too. And without the adequate tires on your vehicle, so kind of leading in the fact that it is first day of fall. So when do you start thinking about winter driving? Now, believe it or not, you prepare for winter driving in the fall. And that's part of having your vehicle properly inspected. If you have to book an appointment and your service center is booked for a couple of weeks, do it now. That way, it's going to be ready at that time, and the fluid levels, your tires, different things like that. And that way, you know that you're ready to drive in the winter weather.
I'll tell you, I don't know if there's going to be an abundance of available tires or a shortage, because I'm seeing people on the road today who are driving on winter tires that are probably purchased pre-pandemic. They just never changed them.
Yeah.
Either it's because the vehicle stayed and never hit the road and they just started to drive now. Whatever the case may be, those tires are not ready to be used anymore. If you've driven for 2 years on winter tires, they're unsafe on your car today, and they're definitely not ready for winter.
No, they're not. And I think we can have a really good discussion as the temperature drops even more. But just as a point of interest, the rubber compound on a winter tire is softer than the of the all season. So because of the asphalt and it's warm, it's going to rub that rubber off a lot sooner than if the asphalt was cold. And that's why I always prefer to call them a winter tire, not a summer tire, because it's for the season, not just for the elements. But if you want to buy the winter tires and you want to get a good price, this is a good time to actually start looking for them. Not waiting until it's going to snow in 2 days from now, because then the prices go up a little bit more. So you might find better deals now.
And you can also talk to the company about buying them and booking it in a time and date in the future to have them installed. They get the sale and their money in their pocket, and then you could possibly slide into a spot when it's convenient instead of trying to figure out how you're even going to find tires when the push comes to shove. I just want to acknowledge Big Jeff Fresh has said, failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yep.
And thank you for contributing, because we like being able to put lower thirds up. So if you are watching and you have questions, comments, rude remarks, okay, keep the rude remarks to yourself, but you can certainly throw the comments there, and we'll interact with you. We'll throw it up on screen. If it's a question, we'll answer you. So turning away from tires, because we're saving that for your next episode, but there's a ton of stuff that have happened since we spoke last. And one of those was September 12th. It's a great day, but it also came in with a change to the Moms Act. So back to June, was it June or July 1st? I think it was July 1st. We saw an expansion to the stunt driving laws that said you were now going to get a 14-day impound in the event of a stunt driving charge, but they left the suspension time the same temporarily. They also went and said if you're speeding 40 over in an area that has a speed limit under the 80 kilometers an hour, so if you were driving in a 60 and you were doing 40 over, that constituted stunt driving. So that was new, because prior to that it had been 50 over. So fast forward to September 12th, and they added two more things. They said not only will you get a 14-day impound, you're now going to get a 30-day suspension. And that was in addition to or not in addition to, but in place of the formerly 7-day suspension. And that's roadside instantaneous, you have no license. But they did more. They expanded the areas that were included, that were eligible to have HTA fences laid, and that now includes private property. So if you are using a mall parking lot for donuts, now you're eligible for stunt driving charges, which would then trigger all those suspensions and impounds. So a lot of people are upset because they go, well, my driveway is a mile long, can't I do burnouts in that? And that now, technically, because there's nothing to suggest it doesn't include your driveway, that you just shouldn't be stunt driving anywhere.
No, I mean So first of all, to recognize on the fact of 30 days, let's go with that one first. So some people might think, okay, 7 days, I can get by with the 7 days. So the 7 day suspension is one thing, but then people have to realize that you have to get your license reinstated. So it really is longer than the 7 days. So now let's fast forward to the 30-day suspension. Taking a bus, taking Uber, going with friends to work for a week or so is one thing, but now you're looking at a month. That really is now, oh, it's inconvenient. Well, it's inconvenient. It's also what you did was the cause of that inconvenience was now safe. The fact that you took the liberty of deciding that you were above all rules of the road, and the fact that it's not just about the laws, it's also about the safety. The fact that you make that one mistake and doing something that you don't normally do, you don't know necessarily how your vehicle is going to respond to it because you're not doing it regularly. Especially if this was your first time doing something like that. So the fact that you don't know what it's like, we've seen videos in social media where the driver does burnout on the road, and then they get something to grip and they take off and they hit a tree, they go across the road in oncoming traffic, they crash in their vehicles. They're not doing it on purpose because a skid is a loss of control. That's
I'm,
it.
I'm just trying to figure out how many of these people who are doing these shows in Toronto on private property, illegally, of course, and wreck their cars, plan to do it. You know,
Exactly. And there's different ways to get your adrenaline rush. Go skydiving. Do something different that puts under a safe environment. If you like the speed, go to a go-kart track and get to that speed. Go get yourself involved in a organized organization that allows you to do it safely with the proper protocols in place.
thanks for
Um,
bringing that up. Sorry to jump in for a second.
yeah,
Under the HTA, there are two exemptions that are clearly stated, and that is a proper racetrack or a go-kart track are exemptions for motor vehicles being able to do certain things that would otherwise be considered stunting. So it's not saying that nowhere in the world can you do anything. It's
yep,
saying that it has to be in a sanctioned area,
yep.
planned, like the Honda Indy. It's a permitted event. Another thing that the government can issue a permit to allow activity to take place. But it does open up to a question. And it was a valid point. Back in the day, if it was winter season, snowfall, I used to go to a parking lot and I test my brakes out. I do some threshold braking. That could now be interpreted as stunt driving, and we will have to find a solution as to where people can do this safely. But there's no good answer for it right now. So if you've got ideas, please share. But I don't have a good suggestion at the moment with the laws being what they are.
Well, one of the things that I saw when this came out, I saw it on different comments on social media, was that, oh, I like to do donuts in the wintertime to practice skid control. Well, the best way to avoid a skid is not to get into one. When you're purposely doing donuts, your vehicle is sliding. When your vehicle slides, you're not in control. That's bottom line. And you think you are, but you're not. You might know how to get it started, and then you can't stop it like that as much as you might believe you can, because you're now dealing with different factors involved. You've got inertia, you've got speed, what's your tire depth for your tread, different things like that. And then you make a mistake. You make a mistake in this private property thing. So when people say, "Well, can I do it on my own private property?" I believe that where it comes into stunting, where you're losing control and you're reckless, is quite often if it's going to be a complaint. If it's a mall parking lot, it's going to be a complaint because somebody else owns it. You don't own it. If you have farmland and you're doing donuts in the mud pit, practicing for your demolition derby in the fall fairs, that's one thing, because no one's going to complain about your mud pit in the back of your farm. But doing it at a shopping plaza, a church parking lot, a school parking lot, that's careless. And it's against the respectful act between someone else's property and your vehicle.
But just to be clear, it does say private property. It doesn't specify if you own it, and it does even
No, that's
include
right.
it actually includes farmers field. But you're
It
absolutely right.
does.
If nobody's complaining, police aren't going to stake out your backyard in wait,
No,
hoping that you're going to go do a burnout.
that's right.
But if you're using your land to then hold an event, that's where we would anticipate a complaint is caused. Suddenly that's no longer off. It's not a safe zone. So many people took advantage of the fact that the laws were written to not include those private property spots, and that protection is now gone. You made a very good point though about being in a skid and avoiding skids if you want to practice. It's not about getting into a skid. It's about learning how to do break and avoid. If you're going to be doing threshold braking, that's not. I can't see anything that would be considered illegal there. Even if you lose traction while trying to learn to maintain traction, that's
Yeah.
not intentionally losing traction. That's failing at threshold braking, and it's justifiable. I think it's totally different than the other side, which is intentionally doing burnouts and then saying I'm learning. So yeah, you make a very good point.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, on some of the episodes and some of the seasons of Canada's Worst Driver, they were showing how to do. Luckily, I wasn't involved with it because I wouldn't. Is how to do a donut and then how to get out of it. And the fact remains, you're not in control of the vehicle, and you're letting science take control till it eventually says, okay, enough is enough.
But you look at modern vehicles. So many vehicles today come with traction control settings.
Yep.
You have to actually go to work to disable these things in order to put yourself in a situation where you're doing many of these activities. If you let the system that's designed to help you, you should likely never get into a situation.
I agree. When you've got electronic stability control or ESC, um, it comes on and slows down a wheel if you're starting to slide going around a corner. Typically, you're taking the corner faster than the conditions allow. What happened in snowy, icy, rainy roads, rain we're going to have for the next few days. So we adjust to the conditions. And if you adjust to the conditions, it's not going to activate. And if you don't adjust the conditions, it's going to activate. And it's going to actually
Could a
protect.
custodian come to the front desk, please? A
Anybody else
custodian to
hear
the front
voices?
desk.
Someone is looking for a custodian. It brings me right
You
back
heard
to
it
grade
too.
school.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. It's not just you. It's not just you. Anyway, I was going to say
where's
something.
my
I'm not going to say it.
medication? All right.
You know, you segued into something interesting. We got a question on TikTok that asked if I'm trying to stop for a yellow light, but I can't because it's rainy and I go through it. What happens? My answer is this: you need to drive for the conditions, and what you just said. There should be no excuse for going through an amber light, unless
No.
when, like when do you tell your students that it's okay?
Well, first of all, the law states for the amber light to stop if it's safe to do so. So if I've got Tommy tailgater behind me, then it's not safe to stop. So I am going to go through that light. Even if it's a red light camera, it's going to notice the car behind on my bumper, and I'm not going to get a ticket in the mail. Um, the If I'm too close for to stop, because if I stopping safely is not slamming on your brakes and having your anti-lock brakes activate. It's making a safe routine stop. So if I can't do a safe routine stop, then I go through because I'm following the letter of the law, and it's unsafe to slam on your brakes.
And that's your
Even with
point of no return thing.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we teach at Young Drivers is the point of the return. So part of it is your speed, and the speed doesn't necessarily mean that you're exceeding it. It just means you're on a 60 road versus a 50 road. So that 60K road, that point's going to be a little bit further back. You have a wet road, icy road, snowy road. It's going to be further back. You have a driver tailgating you, or you have a loaded truck. And the thing is, you don't always know the truck is loaded with cargo or not. So when you have a transport behind you, braking hard isn't necessarily your best choice. So
Now,
those three factors are going to make the decision on whether or not you stop or whether or not you go.
when we talk about enforcement of this, because it is a ticket that you're eligible for if you fail to stop for an amber light, it's the same as running a red light. Slightly different evidence, slightly different situation. But we're not focused on folks who are in the intersection, approaching the intersection. It happens to change. It's the people who are hitting the gas to get through that amber. It's the people who are already exceeding the speed limit and making no effort to slow down. They're not gauging anything; they're just going. Those are the people who are generally going to find themselves with one of these tickets, and the safety being the focus. You have to understand that other people on the road are anticipating a certain activity. Take, for instance, someone who's waiting to make a left turn at that intersection. The light is amber. You're far enough in the distance that you should, by everyone involved, be slowing down to come to a stop. And when they then begin their turn and you drive into them because you were going to make that yellow, that's where we have problems. It's really a community. Driving is a shared responsibility. Safety on the road is a shared responsibility.
It is.
And
I often refer to it as a team effort, and everybody on the road is on the same team. And if it's football and you're supposed to go straight and hang a right, and you go straight and hang a left, then you're not going to get the pass, or it's going to go incomplete. So you have to work together as a team. And stop if it's safe to do so is still the law. It's not speed up because the red light's coming. And I was still driving in the time that when the light, in many jurisdictions, when the light turned red for you, it was instantaneous green for the other sides.
Hmm.
So now that there's a slight delay, it's to help reduce the late runner, the red light runner. And I know people who they lost a member of their family for someone who ran a red light.
Something to consider also, in Toronto, we have something called a pedestrian advance, where the light is red for everybody else, and the pedestrians get a head start. Well, if you're anticipating that it's red for them and you can keep going, and then you take out a pedestrian, yeah, that's a bad day at the office because they're, again, not expecting you to do what you're choosing to do. Now, I had a moment where I was going to say something, and my little side thing just completely lost my train of thought. So, as you were.
It's okay. Sometimes my train of thought gets derailed as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, part of the mentality of the driver, and my community is getting longer every day now because more people are back to work. You're going to get there when you get there. And the fact that running a red light, well, what are you coming up to? I always remember uh, in my community watching someone blow through a light, and it was a red light camera, and the flash went off. You know what they were speeding up to? Another red light.
Of course. I always love when people accelerate at Mach 1 and take over. They overtake me, and then I end up at the next intersection, and I'm staring at them, going, "Really? Like, come on!" And it's not. It's a regular occurrence. There is some disconnect where people either they like the sound of their engine, or there's some kind of adrenaline run, but it makes no sense. It's not good for gas. It's not good for your vehicle. It's just not good. You wear your brakes out faster. What is the reason you want to do this? I just don't understand it. And there's no excuse that I can come up with that would justify that kind of behavior.
Justification, I agree. There is no, and for those who like the vehicle to go fast and the aggressiveness is, think of another way to vent that um, adrenaline rush. Like I said, skydiving. My son went skydiving in the summer, first time on a plane, and he jumps out of it. So, told next time he goes on a plane, make sure it lands before you get off. But that was, he said, was a huge adrenaline rush. But he has a performance vehicle. He doesn't drive it fast because he likes it. He's paid a lot of money for it, and it's respecting his property. So if you were playing street hockey, or you're on a playground and you're playing road hockey, you don't put your 50-inch television in the goal to protect someone from scoring a goal on you. That wouldn't seem logical because you just spent $900, $1,000 on this big you know um, television. Well, why would you put your thousands of dollar property of your vehicle in a situation where it can get damaged as well? And that's your own actions. It's the same thing, and it's a higher value. So, like, stop.
And many people don't take into consideration the fact that if you're found at fault, obviously your insurance is going to be affected. But if you're found to be doing something that's absolutely criminal, some of these speeders that I see that are well above the legal limit, what do you think their insurance company is going to say when I'd like to have a claim for the wreck for my car that was doing 150 kilometers an hour in a posted 90 zone? I imagine that's going to be an issue at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm not an insurance adjuster. I can't tell you that for sure. But I can't imagine anyone wanting to cover you for that. But that's a separate issue. I get a lot of questions about this on TikTok, and it's about, can I accelerate as quickly as I want to from a stop at a green when it becomes a green light, or when I'm accelerating from a stop sign. I don't think there's anything specifically outlined in the HTA that says thou shalt not accelerate quickly. However, there are other laws that I think could be triggered. But I want to get your thoughts on the whole idea of hammer down at the light.
So a jackrabbit start, as it once was called. Um, let's talk about the negative first, just to say that, is this really a good idea? So other than getting an adrenaline rush, and look how fast my car can go from 0 to 60. Your tire spin, you're wearing off tread. You're going to create flat spots. Fuel consumption, down the toilet. Um, you could be going faster with somebody else, and if the light turns green, you hammer down, and someone goes through a red. Yes, they shouldn't, but you still have to make sure it's clear. So green doesn't mean go. Green means go when it's safe. So if you're not looking to see if it's safe and you just off you go, those are mistakes that's going to happen, and you could be T-boned into your door. Yes, you've got airbags, yes, you've got side impact beams, but you're still going to get hurt. There's no question about it. At least hurt. and there's no real pluses on it. The fact that, and I know that racing is a high demerit point violation, and you've got the driver beside that wants to do the same thing. You don't have to be excessively speeding to be caught as at racing, correct?
Absolutely.
It's the intent to race if it has the appearance.
I was going to say it's not so much the intent and more so the appearance.
Yeah. So you want to hit the gas hard at a light, and the driver beside you is doing the same thing. You're both gone. Right?
Yeah, it does have the appearance and the potential of going towards stunt if you lose traction during that heavy acceleration. But I like what you were talking about the hard wear and tear of the vehicle. That transmission is going to not love you, and doing this kind of thing is just beating up the beautiful car or not so beautiful car, depending on what you're choosing to speed in. One thing that I have often made comment about is if you are hitting the gas and the other road users anticipate you doing one thing and you do another. For instance, a pedestrian who is trying to walk across the street and is now running as a result of it. Those little cues are really great for evidence.
Yeah, they are, and think of it as synchronized. There's a friend of mine, and he's in Michigan, and I'm sure if we look hard enough, we can find places like this in Ontario. But he has an older vehicle that he has worked on, and it's pride and joy. He takes it to the drag strip, where again there's safety protocols in place, and he wants to see how fast it can go. So he puts separate tires on it, not his regular street, because he knows they're going to wear out. And he's been clocked doing the quarter mile.
Wow.
And so, I mean, you've got a high performance vehicle. You want to see how fast it goes. Take it where it deserves to be, where it's safety, where you're wearing a helmet, and you're not going to have the cross traffic. You're not going to have the pedestrians. It's a safer environment.
You're also going to have a private fire crew and ambulance on standby for when things go wrong, and they do go wrong. Look at any professional sport. They don't do this willy-nilly without any kind of planning. Planning is where they're at. It's all about making sure that they can expect the unexpected and respond appropriately because, bad things happen when we play with big toys and push their limits.
That's right. You can have the best of intentions, but when there's outside forces that are affecting your decision making, then you have to remember you're not in control of everything.
I learned as a married person, I'm in control of very little. So
I hear you.
I tell you, that's why I go to work. No, I'm kidding.
That was your outside voice, right?
That was my outside voice. So listen, we could, as we often do, can go on for a very long time.
Yeah,
but we've covered some great stuff. I don't want to. We've talked about tires. I look forward to your episode on tires and reconvening and discussing it in more depth as we get closer. But lots of good stuff. Schools are back in. People are I think, generally doing a great job. We've heard no major upsets. We did issue a whole bunch of tickets in relation to our Go Back to School campaign. But aside from those, the vast majority are doing a good job. So everyone out there, be safe, keep up the great driving, and we'll come back soon. Now, just for the folks who have noticed, we aren't doing this Monday to Friday anymore. We were doing it nonstop, and we've scaled back. We're having some changes in the office. We're now a 4-day work week, rotating on shifts. So we're reorganizing the way we play the game when it comes to this show. We're still 4 days a week, or I should say still. We've now gone from 5 days a week to 4 days a week on TikTok, and this show is when we have guests and when we have special events. So we'll still be doing a number a week. We just don't know exactly when. So we'll promote it. Keep on the lookout on our Twitter accounts to know when we're going to be on next. But it's been a slice. Thanks as always, Scott. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
You bet.
Oh wait! I almost got rid of you without telling everybody where they can find you. That would have been horrible.
I'm right here.
This is true, but I have a whole bunch of buttons that I get to press. This is Scott Marshall. Wait, did you not notice? This is Scott Marshall. He's a safe driver. He's on Twitter at Safe Driver. You can get him on TikTok at The Safe Driver. We really have to get the Safe Driver or the at Safe Driver somehow. We have to.
It's still,
get him a slushie.
As long as it still says Safe Driver, we're good.
We're good. No, but I'm thinking we could bribe them with like a Snickers bar. If you'd like to see his blog, thesafedriver.ca, and of course, his podcast is Speed Bumps, the Safe Driving Podcast. It comes out on Sundays. The episodes are quick, 15 minutes or less. They're audio. You can download them and listen to them while you drive. Now, and that's it. That's all. Actually, I'll give you the quick on us. You can get us on Twitter, Traffic Services. You can get us on Instagram, Traffic Services Toronto. We have a YouTube channel, Traffic Services Toronto Police, and of course on TikTok, Traffic Services. And that was a very, very condensed and quick. And now we can say goodbye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take it easy, everybody. Thanks.